What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for another Legion Go video here with Dragon Age the Veilguard. I've tried this on Steam Deck and the Ally X. Those videos are up. Performance, all in all, has been pretty decent for the handhelds here, and it's definitely playable here on the Legion Go as well. So let's go into it. We're going to take a look at some settings. We're going to look at some different resolution with 1200p and 800p, and mostly we'll be at 25 watts here, but we'll talk about all that as well. I am also running 4 gigs of VRAM. However, 6 gigs may be the better way to go, and I am on the official Lenovo GPU drivers, not the side-loaded newer AMD drivers right now. And as far as the graphics, I'm running everything on low. As far as the preset and vignette turned off, you might be able to bump some textures up on 6 gigs of VRAM, but performance for this game is pretty rough, GPU bound, and every time I try to bump anything up, it really hurts performance too much to be worth it. Just kind of is what it is with the game right now on here. Now, as far as the upscaling goes, we have FSR and XeSS, and we're going to be using FSR here on the 1200p. Native was about 28 FPS and is going to tank in a lot of areas. This spot sitting still not too hard to run. Switching over to quality, though, gains us about 8 FPS, makes it a bit more doable. Going over to FSR balanced, takes up to about 39 FPS or so here on 1200p. And if we go to performance, which is what I'm going to use for the gameplay, we're at around 43 FPS, which is good because we'll dip all the way down into the 20s still in some areas. And then FSR Ultra Performance gives us the biggest boost, but of course, picture quality takes the biggest hit as well. Now, when it comes to TDP or the wattage here, I'm using 25 watts. Anything under about 22 really does start to suffer, especially in other areas of the game. I did this on the Ally X as well and really showed that. And here on the Legion Go, same thing. It comes way down almost to the native performance when we come down to about 17 watts or so there. 20 watts does help bump us back up, but again, when the system gets hit in some other areas of the game, it totally loses its performance as well. So again, for me, I really have had to stick 22 and up, especially handheld mode here. Going to 30 watts will take us from that 43 FPS at 25 up to 47. So if you're playing docked or you really want to chew that battery in handheld mode, or you have a power bank, you can get a little bit more performance that way as well. It just depends on what you want to squeeze out of this thing, but I'm going to stick with 25 watts here to give you an idea of performance. Now, when it comes to 800p, similar thing. We're going to use native mostly here. I think it looks good, but native 800p gives you the same performance basically as 1200p on performance FSR, so you just have to decide what you want to do there. And if you need a little bit more out of it, you can go quality or balanced on your FSR and gain a bit there as well at the 800p, but again, I think native kind of looks nicer on the screen here if you don't want to upscale the 1200p. So getting back over to 1200p here, got some gameplay that we'll run through, and again, obviously performance is going to vary a lot depending on where you're at in this game. I've seen anywhere from 25, 26 FPS with these settings on 1200p to 40s or high 40s in other areas, even the 50s in certain areas. So it's going to vary a lot depending on where you're at. Areas like this will certainly come down lower, 26 FPS in this area up to 30 FPS. It just happens to be a difficult spot to run, and we'll take a look at that at 800p as well here in a second. But yeah, another area of a different city with all the shops and stuff that you get to runs a good bit better than that other city area we were just in. So again, it's all going to really vary depending on where you're at. If we jump into these same areas at 800p at native TAA high, again, you get basically the same performance that we're seeing over at 1200p with FSR on performance. So I think this in general gives you an idea of what you might want to do here with your TDP, your FSR, or XeSS, which might have a little better picture quality from time to time, but averages about 2 FPS less in the performance increase when using that for me here. And getting into combat is going to be similar depending on where you're at and how many enemies there are and what's happening on screen. I imagine some bigger battles later on in the game will certainly hit the performance harder than some of these ones I'm showing in the video, but all in all, we were able to stay above 30 FPS and do pretty good in combat, bouncing around a few of the areas that I've played in my first 4 or 5 hours of the game here. It does take a good little while to get through the whole beginning areas and into some other stuff, but performance here holds up really good here, 1200p. I don't think anybody's looking to get super high frames out of this, but it does need to be stable and fairly stutter free. These same two combat areas at 800p low native, again, just like the other city areas we were looking at, runs basically the same performance as your 1200p with performance upscaling from FSR. So again, something you'll just have to decide what you want to go with that. And ultra performance that we had looked at, again, I think picture quality takes quite a hit, but it will give you another 2 to 5 FPS depending on what you're looking for there. So yeah, I mean 1200p or 800p, but depending on if you want to deal with upscaling or not, and how far you want to go with your FPS and all that kind of stuff. Now, we can also do quality on our FSR here and 800p. Again, like I said, you might want to hit some quality or balanced on that, and that keeps us at that 30 here instead of dropping into the 20s at this difficult to run spot. And kind of as you get into the rest of the game, you might gain another 2 to 5 FPS using quality over native, maybe 5, 6, 7 FPS if you go balanced. So all depends on what you're looking for there and what kind of picture quality you want on the screen on the Legion Go, but I think it looks pretty good either way. But unfortunately, we are pretty much stuck with like low settings and that 22 to 30 watts to kind of get the game to run stable and decent, regardless what you want to do with your resolution and all of that. You're going to use some kind of upscaling with 1200p either way. 1080p dock, same way. You're pretty much going to need some kind of upscaling. 800p or 720p, you're going to get away with some native, or in certain areas you might want to use a little bit of upscaling there. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.